Hi, I'm Skip Bedell, and welcome to the Dumawall shower surround installation video. And today we're talking about installing the Dumawall tiles. These tiles are waterproof, mold and mildew resistant, and they have a super easy DIY installation with an interlocking system that requires no mortar and no grout. Now the best part about these tiles is they can be installed over drywall, cement board, or even your existing wall tiles in the shower. So before we get started with our installation, let's talk about some of the tools that you'll need to get the job done right. During the installation process, the Dumawall tiles may need to be cut and fit. And you can easily cut the tiles with a jigsaw, a miter saw, a table saw, or a circular saw. And of course, if you're using any of these power tools, you want to make sure to have on proper eye protection. Now, if you don't have the power tools, you can easily cut the Dumawall tiles by using a utility knife to score and snap. You'll also need a caulk gun to apply the adhesive and sealant. You'll need a level, a square, a measuring tape, pencil, and drill and hole saw to make holes and cuts around plumbing fixtures. Today we'll be installing Dumawall wall tiles in what used to be an old, outdated tile shower. Now again, the beauty of this product is that it can be installed over cement board, over drywall, or over existing wall tile like what used to be in this shower. Now in this particular installation, we've decided to remove the wall tile so we can change out the plumbing in the shower pan. We'll be installing our new Dumawall tiles right over fresh wallboard. Now, as you can see, we have an inside trim piece already installed. The manufacturer recommends Loctite Power Grab Ultimate as the adhesive to use to bond these firmly to the wall. Dumawall makes inside and outside corner trims as well as J and L trims that can terminate the edge of the Dumawall tile during your installation. Now for this installation, we won't be using the J trim because we're going to install the tile all the way over throughout the wall. Now that we're getting ready to install our tiles, we want to make sure that our shower pan is level. It's important that this first course of tiles is very level because that's going to set the level all the way up the wall. Now when you put a level on your pan, if you find that the pan is not exactly level, you may need to trim the first course of the bottom Dumawall tiles in order to get that level top line. The Dumawall tiles can be installed horizontally or vertically and in a stacked pattern or in a subway or brick design. For this installation, we decided to install them vertically. Now it's important when you install your first course, you'll notice there's a flange that runs all the way around these tiles. You want to trim off the bottom flange so that the tile sits down flush onto the shower pan. Now that we've decided we're going to have our vertical installation for the design, we've cut off our flange. We can dry fit our first piece into our inside corner. And then we'll take our second piece, also with the flange cut off, set it down tight to the shower pan and insert that joint. As you can see, they're an interlocking overlap joint. And then we come across for our third piece. We had to make a notch cut around this base tile, which was very easy to do with a jigsaw. Simply measure and mark the notch area with a pencil before cutting. So now we come across to our third piece and we set that inside. And of course, make sure that everything is level because it's critical that this first course is level so all the rest of the layout will be level as well. Now that we've got it set up, trimmed, and level, we can take them off and get them ready to glue them on the wall. Before starting, make sure all surfaces are clean, dry, smooth, and free from dust, grease, wax, etc. Clean the back surface of the panels by wiping with a clean cloth. Apply a 1/4 inch bead of glue all the way around the perimeter of the tile, about a 1/2 inch from the edge. Then go back and fill in the middle with an M pattern. Now that we have the glue applied to the back of our Dumawall tile, we're going to adhere it to the wall. So we want to stick it down flush onto the shower pan and then carefully work it into our corner trim, sliding it into place. Apply pressure across the tile and make sure it's glued in and down to the pan. You want to take a wet cloth and wipe off any excess adhesive while it's still wet because it'll be much harder to remove after it dries. So now that I have my first tile glued firmly in place, before I continue on to the next, I want to apply a sealer. So the manufacturer recommends DAP Quick Seal Ultra, and this is basically a silicone sealant that we can apply on all the tongue and groove joints. So on the inside joint and along the top before we start our next course. Now that we have our first tile adhered and sealed in place, we're going to take our second tile, which has already been glued, and adhere it to the wall by fully inserting the tongue into the groove onto the first tile. Now we have our next tile down to the shower pan, glued to the wall and locked in, making a waterproof seal. Now that we have our first course in place, we're going to go ahead and apply our sealant to the top edge of our seam. A nice thin bead. And now we can get ready to apply our second course of tiles. Let's install our first tile of the second course. We're going to set it down on top of our seam and push it right into the inside corner track, lining up this joint so it's in place directly over the first course. Press firmly, and now we have a nice watertight joint here. So when cutting around plumbing fixtures and pipes, we want to go ahead and measure off our existing tiles in place. And once we have our measurements, we can go ahead and mark off and cut the hole in our next tile. Okay, next tile is glued, and we're going to go ahead and set that in place. So again, the same process. We're going to set this down into our joint and then also press into this joint, making sure we have a nice connection, both joints on the bottom and along the side. We're going to put firm pressure all along the tile, and now we have a nice watertight seam all the way around these tiles. Repeat the gluing and sealing installation process all the way up the shower stall wall. Now that we're starting the other side of the wall, we're going to do it the same way. We already have the bottom flange cut off each one of our tiles. We're going to set it down flush onto the top of the shower pan, and we're going to work it right into the inside corner track. Press firmly so our adhesive gets a nice bond to the wall, and we have a nice seal down to the floor. And now it's just repeat all the way through the wall, just like we did on this side. We still want to make sure that our top edge is nice and level on this first course. Very important, because that's what's going to have our level all the way up the wall. We want to make sure these corners and joints all line up nice and straight, so we have a level layout all the way up the wall. So now we got it locked in. The top joint is sealed with silicone into our inside corner, and we can continue down the wall. Once we get outside of the wet zone, we'll no longer have to apply that sealant to all of the joints. But right now, we're inside of the wet area of the shower. We want to make sure that we're consistent and keep that sealant along every edge of the tongue and groove joints, giving us a waterproof seal on every tile connection. Now we're going to work our way outside into the dry area, and it's no longer necessary to have that sealant on these joints. I'm just about done installing the second wall of our shower enclosure, and now we've come to when we have to make a different type of cut. We've already talked about making notch cuts, but now I'll have to make a cut in the middle of this tile. So like making a notch cut, we want to take measurements all the way around what it is we're going to cut. In this case, it's an electrical box. And then measurements to the outside edge of the lip of our tile, just like in the notch cut. I've gone ahead and transferred those measurements onto this tile, and you can see with a straight edge and pencil I've made them, and you'll see how this will move right into place. This is a notch for the mirror. This is the hole cut for the box. So unlike the notch cuts, this has to be a hole right in the middle of our tile. I'm going to go ahead and take you out to the saw and show you how we make this cut. Now that I've made my measurements for the electrical box cutout, I've taken a tape, pencil, and square and transferred those measurements onto our Dumawall tile. We're ready to make this hole cut. So in order to make that cut, we're going to need a drill bit to start the hole, and then we can cut out the rest of this hole with our jigsaw all the way around. Okay, let's get started. First thing, we're going to make a hole inside of that mark that I've made. Then I can take the jigsaw and continue this cut all the way around. Now that the hole is cut for our electrical box, we can go ahead and take our jigsaw and cut out this notch for the mirror. There's our piece ready to be fitted on the wall. Now that I've got the piece cut, like any other cut piece, we want to dry fit it before we permanently glue it to the wall. And it looks like a good fit. I can go ahead and apply the glue.